My name's Ethan Cole, and if you had told me 2 years ago that my best friend would be the one to cut the deepest, I would have laughed in your face. Not Trevor. Not the guy who had been my ride or die since middle school. We'd gone through everything together: high school drama, heartbreaks, late-night pizza runs, and even applying for the same college internships like it was some kind of joint mission. It was always understood between us. We had the same dreams, same industry goals, same passion for creative marketing. And maybe, just maybe, the same dream job. We both wanted in at Stratus Creative, one of the most prestigious marketing firms in New York. Everyone in our circle knew it. It wasn't some hidden desire, it was spoken, open, and maybe too exposed. When we graduated, we moved into a small but decent apartment in Brooklyn. Roommates, friends, future legends, those were the labels we wore like armor. But even armor rusts if left unchecked. It started on an ordinary Thursday morning in September. The air was crisp, the kind of morning that made you believe something good was coming. I was sipping my burnt Keurig coffee, half-dressed in a shirt I didn't have time to iron, getting ready for an informal Zoom interview with a straightest recruiter, just an initial screening. Nerve-wracking but exciting. Trevor sat across the table, eating cereal like he didn't have a care in the world. He glanced at the screen and said, "You got this, man. Just be you." Something about the way he said it struck me. Too casual. Too quick. Like a line he'd practiced. But I brushed it off. "Thanks," I said, adjusting my collar. "You're not nervous for yours next week?" He blinked. "Oh, yeah, totally. Just trying not to overthink it." That should have been the first sign. Trevor never underthought anything. He was the guy who made color-coded planners for networking events and read marketing trend blogs at 2 a.m. But again, I dismissed it. Maybe he was trying to be chill. Maybe it was nerves. After my call, which went better than expected, I told him every detail, the questions they asked, the moment the recruiter laughed at my joke about branding therapy, even the follow-up she hinted at. Trevor nodded, smiled, and said, "That's amazing, bro, seriously. They'd be lucky to have you." The smile didn't reach his eyes. Still, I kept talking. I always had this problem, sharing too much, especially with people I trusted. I laid out everything. The recruiter's name, her tone, the way she reacted when I brought up our joint project from college. Trevor even asked follow-up questions that made it seem like he genuinely cared. "What exactly did you say about our campaign pitch? Did she mention if they're still filling that digital strategist spot?" All innocent on the surface. But later that night, I walked past his room on my way to grab a midnight snack. His door was cracked open. I caught a glimpse of him on a Zoom call, half whispering, half laughing, but what stopped me was the phrase I caught mid-sentence. "Yeah, I actually led that whole college pitch project myself." I froze. He couldn't be talking about our campaign, right? I waited a second, leaned closer. His voice dropped lower. I couldn't hear much else, just vague words like relevant experience, original concept, my angle, and then, "I'll email you that doc tonight." I backed away slowly and went back to bed, my cereal long forgotten. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My heart wasn't racing. It was sinking. The way a gut feeling drags you down before logic catches up. But still, I made excuses for him. Maybe he was talking to a different recruiter, I whispered into the dark. Maybe it's for another company. He wouldn't do that. The next morning, I casually asked, "Who were you talking to last night?" He blinked, mid-bite of his protein bar. "Huh. You were on a call pretty late." He shrugged. "Oh, just one of my old professors. Wanted a referral for another role I'm applying for." He didn't meet my eyes. And I didn't press. I wanted to believe him. Needed to. I told myself I was being paranoid. That I was projecting stress. Trevor couldn't, steal credit for something we built together. That wasn't him. But a crack had formed in the glass between us. Small. Barely visible. But once you know where it is, it's all you can see. Later that week, I checked in with the recruiter from Stratus via email. A short, polite thank you for the chat, just something to stay top of mind. She replied a few hours later with warmth, and something that didn't sit right. "It was great hearing both your perspectives on the same campaign. Very cool seeing how two friends can approach the same project differently. Both our perspectives? I never told her Trevor had worked on that campaign too. Not during the call, not in my email. I stared at the sentence for a solid minute, my stomach twisting slowly like a knot being pulled tighter. So, he'd spoken to her. But when? And more importantly, why didn't he tell me? I closed my laptop, suddenly cold despite the radiator's hum. Something had shifted. Something I couldn't unsee now. After that email, I couldn't stop spiraling. I started noticing little things I'd missed before. The way Trevor's eyes flicked away every time I brought up Stratus. How he suddenly got quiet if I mentioned upcoming interviews. His calendar used to be open, scribbled on the fridge, color-coded like always. Now it was blank. I told myself not to snoop. But when someone puts a knife in your back, the sting makes you reach for the wound, doesn't it? A few days later, Trevor told me he was heading out to meet an old friend from college. Casual. Normal. Nothing weird. But an hour later, I opened Instagram out of boredom and saw his tagged photo. He was at the Stratus Creative Building, standing out front like it was his future palace. The caption wasn't from him. It was from some girl we both knew in passing. Look who I ran into on his way to crush the big leagues, clapping hands, fire, #Stratus Hustle. My blood ran cold. That wasn't some casual coffee meetup. That was him going in. Alone. Without ever telling me. I paced our apartment for an hour after that. I couldn't decide if I wanted to scream at him, confront him, or just disappear. When he came back, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch a basketball game I couldn't follow. He dropped his keys in the dish and walked past me like nothing had happened. "How was your friend?" I asked without looking. He froze for a second too long. "Good," he said. "We caught up. Nothing crazy." I finally turned to face him. "Weird. Looked like you were outside Stratus." He blinked. "Oh, yeah. Her office is nearby. We just grabbed coffee, and then I walked her back to her building." Lie. And not even a good one. But I played along. "That's cool," I said, smiling with all the ice I could summon. "Small world." He nodded a little too quick, then retreated to his room. The silence between us that night felt like wet concrete, heavy, uncomfortable, setting into something permanent. The next day, I opened my laptop with a new goal: find out everything. I started going through our shared Google Drive, the one where we stored all our college projects, including the campaign pitch we'd both worked on. I noticed something off. The folder was untouched, but the document had a duplicate version. Trev_final_pitch_personal docs. I clicked it. It was our campaign. Word for word in some parts. But my contributions were stripped, erased, rewritten with language he liked to use. My slides, my marketing psychology breakdown gone. Replaced with fluff, hashtags, and overly polished ad lingo that Trevor loved but professors had always criticized. He'd taken our joint work and made it solo. His name on the footer. My ideas wearing his mask. My throat went dry. I remembered those late nights in sophomore year when we stayed up tweaking that project. The way he'd once said, "We make a hell of a team, huh?" Now he was rewriting history, editing me out like I was a placeholder. It hit me then, this wasn't carelessness. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was betrayal. Deliberate. Calculated. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I got smart. I started checking his emails. Not in some hacker way, but he had left himself logged in on our shared iMac in the living room. The one we both used for job applications and creative work. One night while he was showering, I clicked over. My heart pounded like it would leap out of my throat. There it was. A string of correspondence between him and Melissa Hart, the recruiter I'd spoken to at Stratus. Dates matching up. Subject lines like follow up on solo campaign experience, and excited to meet the team. He wasn't applying anymore. He was interviewing. Progressing. He'd already done 2 rounds, and they were setting up a final meeting with the director of strategy. I nearly choked. Final meeting? I hadn't even heard back since my initial screening. I looked closer. One email stood out. It read, "Trevor, we were truly impressed with your self-led approach to the university campaign you pitched. Your leadership in executing that strategy independently stood out. We're excited to explore how that creativity could scale at Stratus.
Self-led.
Independently. He hadn't just stolen the project. He'd sold it as his origin story. I logged off before he came back out. But that night, as I lay in bed, I realized something bitter and crystal clear. Trevor wasn't just climbing the ladder. He was using my shoulders to do it and kicking me down as he rose. Still, I didn't say a word. Not yet. I needed to be smart, not reactive. Because when someone plays dirty, you don't beat them by yelling. You beat them by outmaneuvering them. It happened the following Friday. Trevor left the apartment early, dressed in his best navy blazer, hair gelled, smile barely contained. "I'll be out for a while," he said, reaching for his coffee. "Meeting up with an old prof. Maybe swing by the gym." I nodded without looking up from my phone. Sounds good. But inside, my thoughts were fire. I knew he was heading to his final interview at Stratus, and I had no intention of letting it pass quietly. See, the night before, I'd prepared everything. I gathered emails, screenshots, and both versions of our project files. I created a Google folder titled Campaign_Auth_Original, Jake Miller, co-lead. I added a written timeline when we worked on the project, who contributed what, with date stamp changes. I even linked an old class Dropbox assignment that listed both our names as creators. Professor's comments attached. Then I sent that folder in a private email to Melissa Hart. Subject line: regarding Trevor Daniels, clarification on campaign authorship. I hit send at 8:47 a.m. By 9:30, I was sitting in the cafe across from the Stratus building with a view of the glass-fronted lobby. And at exactly 10:04 a.m., I saw Trevor step into the entrance, greeted with a polite handshake by Melissa. He didn't know. He still thought he was winning. I wasn't sure what I expected. A dramatic outburst? Him getting kicked out mid-interview? Instead, I watched as the meeting dragged on longer than it should have. I watched Trevor's confident posture shrink. His hands started gesturing more defensively. Then his head started nodding slowly, then reluctantly. By 10:49, he walked out. Alone. And his face, God, his face told me everything. He looked like a man who'd just seen his future disappear behind a locked door. That night, I waited. He came home past 6 p.m. and didn't say a word. Just kicked off his shoes, loosened his collar, and dropped onto the couch with a heavy thud. I let the silence simmer before breaking it. "So," I said casually, "how was your meeting with the old professor?" He looked at me, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight, and didn't answer for a long time. Then, finally, "You sent them the project files, didn't you?" I didn't blink. "I sent them my work, that you claimed was yours." He shook his head like he couldn't believe it. "You just couldn't let me have it, could you?" I almost laughed. "Let you have it? Trevor, you stole it. Lied about it. Went behind my back to pitch it as if you built it solo." His voice rose. "It was just a pitch. I needed a win. And I didn't." I shot back, feeling my blood rise. "You knew how much that job meant to me. You saw how hard I worked. You watched me prep for that interview. You used everything I shared with you in confidence, every idea, every strategy, like it was your launch pad." He stood up, pacing. "I thought maybe if I got in, I'd help you get in too." Eventually, that lie pushed me over the edge. "No, Trevor," I said through clenched teeth. "You weren't building a bridge. You were burning mine behind my back." That was the real moment. Not when I saw him walk out of Stratus. Not even when he admitted it. It was when he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You were always just the detail guy, Jake." I was the one who could sell it. It felt like a dagger twisting slow. All the years we spent building each other up. All the late-night brainstorms, the mutual promises of success side by side. It had always been transactional to him. He never saw me as an equal. Just a stepping stone. He left the apartment that night, packed a weekend bag, and walked out without another word. And I just stood there, too tired to follow, too numb to react. But something had shifted. I wasn't broken. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was awake.
He thought he'd buried me, but he just cleared the path.
Because while he was scheming, I'd been building something real, honorable, and the truth had weighed on its side. 2 days later, I got a call from Melissa. Not only had they disqualified Trevor permanently, but they'd reviewed my version of the pitch with their team, and were blown away. She asked if I'd be open to coming in for a fresh interview cycle. No guarantees, but she said something that stuck with me. We're not just hiring ideas, we're hiring people with integrity. Thank you for standing up. Trevor returned 3 days later. He didn't knock, just walked in like nothing had changed. I was sitting at the dining table, finishing an email to Melissa. She'd just scheduled me for the final round interview at Stratus. My heart was racing, but I kept my face calm. Trevor's eyes scanned the apartment. Then me. So, he said, dropping his duffel on the floor. You win. I closed my laptop and met his gaze. This isn't a game. He smirked bitterly. Could have fooled me. The room went quiet. That thick, stifling tension returned. The one that had been brewing for months beneath our friendship.
Years, maybe.
You were my best friend, Trevor, I said slowly, voice low. You knew what that job meant to me. And you didn't just compete, you cheated. He walked toward the kitchen, opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water. Like this was normal. Like he belonged here. I got desperate, all right, he snapped, twisting the cap. I've been drowning ever since I left my last job. No interviews, no callbacks. I watched you climbing while I was stuck in the mud. I stood up. So you pull me down with you.
He shook his head. No.
I did what I had to do to survive. His voice cracked, and for a second, I saw something behind his arrogance. Fear. But it wasn't enough. Stealing someone else's work isn't survival, Trevor. It's betrayal. He scoffed. You always needed everything to be so black and white.
Good guy, bad guy.
Right and wrong. But the world doesn't work like that. I leaned forward, my voice sharp now. Don't give me some philosophical excuse for backstabbing me. He slammed the bottle down. You think you're better than me now? No, I said. I've always been better than this. Trevor's eyes narrowed. You think they'll keep you? You think Stratus cares about your sob story? They'll use your ideas and toss you. Then I'll go down with integrity, not lies. He laughed, dark, mocking. You don't have it in you to win, Jake. Not really. You don't have the killer instinct. That's when I said it. You're wrong. His smile faltered. I do have it, I continued. But I use it to create, not destroy. You used to inspire me, Trevor. But now, you're just noise. Silence again. This time, it stretched painfully. Then Trevor stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. You think you won this round, he said, eyes cold. But you made an enemy out of the only person who ever had your back. I didn't flinch. No, Trevor. You were never behind me. You were always waiting to get ahead of me. He stepped back, his expression unreadable, like he didn't know if he should yell, cry, or just walk away. But then came the twist. Trevor pulled out his phone, opened a message thread, turned the screen to face me. It was an email sent from an unknown account. Subject line: Jake Miller has a history of undermining teammates. I read it twice. A fake story, fabricated dates, claims that I'd sabotaged a group project in college, that I'd taken sole credit for collaborative work. I looked up, stunned. You sent this? He smiled. Sent it yesterday. To Melissa. My heart dropped. Why would you do that? He shrugged. Because if I'm going down, I'm not going alone. You forged emails to destroy my reputation? You destroyed my future first. I stared at him, breath caught in my throat.
He was spiraling.
Fully untethered. Then I remembered something. I'd blind copied Melissa when I sent my initial evidence. She'd replied privately.
On a different email thread.
There was no way she believed this lie now, not with real timestamps, actual documents, and original authorship. But Trevor didn't know that. You really thought this would scare me? I asked, quieter now. You think I'm still that guy who second-guesses himself when you raise your voice? He didn't respond. I'm not, I said, walking to the door. You need to leave, Trevor. He didn't move at first. Then, reluctantly, he grabbed his bag. As he reached the doorway, he turned back one last time. This friendship, it meant something once, didn't it? I paused. Yeah,
It did.
but now it means something else. He looked confused. What's that? I opened the door. A lesson. He walked out without another word, and as the door clicked shut, the weight lifted from my chest. I didn't feel vindicated or powerful. I felt free. Free from the illusion of loyalty that had chained me to someone who only saw me as a tool. Free from the idea that I had to stay small to keep the peace. That night, I got a message from Melissa. Thank you for your honesty. We've dismissed the slander. We're moving forward with your final interview. I look forward to seeing you in person. For the first time in weeks, I let myself smile. Not because I'd won, but because I was finally walking my path, not his. The morning of my final interview, I woke up before the sun. The city was still asleep, soaked in that bluish pre-dawn stillness. For a while, I sat by the window, coffee in hand, watching the world slowly stretch awake. After everything, this moment felt pure. Like I was finally breathing air that hadn't been filtered through someone else's expectations. The past week had been chaos, betrayal,
Rage. Shock.
but now, the dust was beginning to settle. Trevor hadn't reached out again.
No apology.
No revenge, just silence. And part of me wondered if that was more dangerous than any words he could have spoken. Still, I pushed the thought away, focused on what mattered. This opportunity. The straightest lobby was sleek, almost cold, like ambition given form. Tall glass windows. Polished floors. Everyone moved with purpose, heels clicking, badges flashing. I checked in, greeted by Melissa, with that same calm authority. Welcome back, Mr. Miller. They're ready for you upstairs. I took the elevator up alone, heart pounding in rhythm with the rising floor numbers. This was it. The panel greeted me with polite smiles. Questions came hard and fast: strategy, ethics, leadership scenarios. But I was ready. Every answer was honest, every idea backed by my own work. There were no shadows in this room. No borrowed voices. No ghosts. After the final question, they exchanged glances. The lead executive, a sharp-eyed woman named Carol, closed her folder and leaned forward. You've impressed us, Jake. Not just with your vision, but with your integrity. I held her gaze.
Thank you, I said.
That means everything. And in that moment, I realized this was mine. Not stolen. Not luck. Earned. They offered me the job on the spot. Straightest senior strategist. A position Trevor and I once dreamed about during long nights, beers in hand, scribbling ideas on napkins. Only now I was taking that dream alone. I should have felt euphoric, and part of me did. But as I packed up that night, preparing for my first day, a strange chill passed over me, like I wasn't alone. I checked the locks, shut the windows. Everything was fine, probably just nerves, until I opened my inbox. One new email. Subject: don't get too comfortable. No sender name, just a blank avatar, and an address I didn't recognize. I clicked.
Nice win, Jake.
But we're not done yet. You took the job. Let's see if you can keep it. By the way, Melissa isn't as loyal as you think.
T.
I froze. My mind raced. Was it him? Was this another mind game? Or someone else entirely? Had he planted something? Said something before he left? The paranoia came rushing back, fast, suffocating. What if I'd only uncovered part of the truth? What if there were more players involved? What if this wasn't over at all? I checked the headers. Nothing traceable. Whoever sent it knew how to cover their tracks. I called Melissa. Straight to voicemail. I stared at the phone in my hand, heartbeat thudding in my ears. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd clawed back, was it already being taken from me again? I remembered something Trevor had said during our confrontation. You think they'll keep you? You think Stratus cares about your sob story? What if he was right? What if he had planted seeds of doubt deep within the company? What if I was the one being watched all along? Suddenly, every kind glance, Every handshake from the execs earlier felt like it had teeth behind it. I stood by the window, the city lights flickering below. I'd won. But now I realized victory comes with its own battlefield. And Trevor wasn't just a mistake in my past. He was a warning about the future. That night, I dreamed of him, standing at the edge of a boardroom table, empty chairs around us. He was smiling, but his eyes were hollow. "You only took my job, Jake," he whispered. "But I took your peace." I woke up in a sweat. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I'd won anything at all. The next morning, I got a text from Melissa. "Let's meet before you start onboarding.
There's something you need to see."
My stomach turned. Was this about the email? Or something worse? Either way, I had no choice now. I was in too deep. And I had a sinking feeling. Trevor wasn't finished. Or maybe the real betrayal hadn't even begun yet. As I closed the laptop and looked out into the city again, I couldn't shake the feeling. This wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of a war.